Hey, it's Jeff and it's Thomas and it's this week in vCons. Okay, it's a Thursday. It's June 4th, 2026. I can't believe it's already June in
June.
2026. But like, wow, it's been a moment. How are you, Thomas?
I'm great. I've had a really good week in vCons. How about you?
I've had a good one too. I'm getting the feeling from random people hitting me up on LinkedIn that people that you and I don't even know about are building vCon applications. It's so cool. Like this,
I
uh,
know.
Cisco Live is taking place right now, and I just hooked up an old friend to connect to Fluffy, who isn't there but has his buddy
Oh,
there to
yeah.
talk vCon. So it's like when Cisco starts whispering vCons, we know something serious is happening in the world.
That's excellent. Well, you know what? We have a deep debt to Fluffy. Colin Jennings, collaboration CTO of Cisco, who's one of the men who stood up way back when and said we have to do vCons.
And
And so, thanks, Colin.
and Colin is an old friend of the Vaughn community, and
Right.
not that we're old or he's old, but we know each other. And I do think that Cisco is going to maybe not lead with vCons, but soon it will be that protocol that people can't live without.
Oh,
It's just
fantastic. Yeah, and by the way, Cullen has great hair. I mean,
yes,
that's why I call him Fluffy, because the guy's
he still responds to Fluffy. I had a Fluffy email just yesterday. So hey, Colin, if you're out there, we're saying hi. So you built some great content. By the way, this is a pre-announcement of an announcement that Thomas and I will be hosting a session in the next week or so
yeah,
about privacy. For those of you who've tuned in the past to our introduction to vCons and our whole series for the past 2+ years about how to this and how to that, we are doing privacy. And I'm very excited to say that Thomas has created, for educational purposes, a 4-part course about vCons. It's not just for the engineers or these FDEs, whatever these FDEs really stand for. It's like I hear this term. It's like, wait a second, all my friends are FDEs. They don't even know it. But it's like, you look at the description from Anthropic, we're hiring 10,000 FDEs. Well, those are my friends. If you're a CEO of a company, if you're not the one in forward person, like, who are you? It's like, but of course, AI has to create these terms. The point is, though, we're doing privacy.
So actually, yeah. So remember back in the day, when we were doing mashups?
Yes.
An FDE is a glorified mashup guy.
Yeah, I think an FDE is anyone who ever wanted to be MacGyver. Somebody who took one thing, mashed it with the other, made it work,
Yeah. As growing up as an engineer, it's interesting that we have some role models who always weren't the best role models.
Yeah.
Like for instance, back in the day, Scotty on Star Trek was a model, but he was awful histrionic. I can't go pasta.
But the thing is, if you think about the definition of FDEs, it turns out to be parents. Parents are actually FDEs. They are, right? They always improvise. If someone's crying, what's going on?
Yeah.
Someone wants to fix, they fix it out. And then you think about chefs or FDEs. Anyone who's forward-facing in a situation can be an FDE. Yes. So I used to tell people, if you can't be CEO of a company, you better be CEO of your life. Well, guess what? If you don't qualify for a job for an FDE, you got to be the FDE of your life.
Oh, I think that's exactly right. So you're in your life, build your product to your requirements. You're sitting right there.
Exactly. And so why are you so passionate about privacy? Has this been a thing for a long time, or like what's going on?
Okay, so as you said, I've been working on content, and I've just finished recording the second long form of the educational material. We expect vCons to come to the market. No, they've been to the market, but into the RFC status this year. And when that happens, for those of us who've seen that happen, there's usually an uptick in interest in the protocol because it's new. And frankly, I think this is the biggest thing coming out of the art area since Stir-Shaken and maybe even since SIP.
Yeah, bigger than SIP. I believe that the impact of vCons will be bigger than SIP, and that's a big statement since SIP is sort of the driving force of a multi-trillion-dollar telecom industry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. So I've been working on the content, and the first course is the whole course is called Thinking in vCon. And the reason I called it Thinking in vCon is because every time I've come to a new technology, I used it wrong until I understood what they were trying to think about. Right. And that happens a lot in technology. And we did that with the web, right? It wasn't like, did that with DSL. We did that with all kinds of things. So it's not unusual. So So the first part is, just understanding that nothing, vCon is just a file, right? And it has all
just a file.
Just a file. It has all the powers of a file. You can save it. And the thing that we really don't really give the file enough credit for is it's a shared contract. It's a definition. And just like Eric Berger said, the point behind a protocol in a file isn't the file, but it's the tools you can then create that use it. Right. And so that's the first chunk of that. And the second chunk is on privacy. And so to answer your question, just around the ballot way, I'm late to the privacy game, to be really honest about it. And I really feel like, so at vConic, we're building, the conversational platform for the enterprise. And a lot of that has to do with trust and the data that you use and the proper management of it. And that is a lot to do with privacy, because a conversation is dangerous in many ways, right? A conversation is dangerous because it reveals your biometrics. You can deep fake me, or you can record my face, or I can be targeted because of the way I look, and that's dangerous too. But it's also dangerous because of the things we talk about in conversations, right? We reveal things that we don't really think about, because in our conversations that we don't want someone else to hear, but when it's captured in the conversation. So I was late to the privacy game, and when I had the idea of the vCon, I got the structure together, and I asked 3 or 4 of my best friends hey, would you come with me and write a white paper? And Alan Quayle and Mitch Lieberman and Dan Petrie, Paul Sweeney gave it a read. We all really, they really helped. And the thing that Dan Petrie did was he really put his finger on the data that's inside the vCon that could be redacted. Right. And that redaction actually works in 2 directions. So one way is you can withhold things and prove it, because you can just give a new one that doesn't have it, so you can prove it, or you can give a new one that is redacted, but you can prove it going with the old one. So they're both redaction and data minimization. They're the same.
Now, just for those listening who think that, okay, I deploy vCons, I automatically have redaction, I automatically have that. I just want to point out that it's up to the underlying subsystems that are utilizing the vCons to implement these abilities, because you're working with a superhero, but you have to enable the superhero's abilities so that these functionality can appear. Would that be the way of saying that?
That's exactly right. And that's the equipment that vConic makes, and that's what the conserver does. And you're right. And that's one of the reasons I used to call it a PDF for conversations, because a PDF is something that you print, and it's the same thing everywhere it goes, but you decide what's in the PDF. You get the document, you print it, and there's my PDF, right? And it's the thing which prints it, which creates the stuff inside the file. And it's the stuff that prints the vCon, which puts the stuff in the file. The vCon itself gives the thing that prints it all kinds of superpowers, but they have to be used. It's exactly it. So it's not just for free, but it's locked down, and you can use it, and it's not hard to do. So,
well, not hard to do if you have world-class engineers building stuff, but yes, if you're a consumer of the product and the technology, it's not hard to implement, but you do need to spend a lot of time figuring out how to make all those moving parts.
That's also true. Sort of like, all your job to do is to eat the dinner, not to cook it.
Yeah, well, look, it's one thing to get in a car and drive it, but don't tell me I have to build my car first before I can.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and by the way, I have such a embarrassment of riches. I mean, all the people I get to work with these days are just so amazing. I do get to work with world-class people every day. It's been
that's amazing, and so I'm really happy to say that your content to help teach people, everyday people, what vCons are, why they're significant, and then through the class and through the conversation we're going to have the week, not next week, but the week following, and that'll be open to the public, and we'll do it'll be really a review of that class, of the content you put together. And you are going to answer people's questions, right? So we'll do like a Zoom style, and it'll be engaging globally. So to bring your questions.
All day. I love that stuff. Yeah.
And so, just curious, from the IETF perspective, I know you and Diana James put together a primer
talking about world class.
Yeah, and I'm just saying. So from that paper, was that something that typically happens at the IETF, or is that unique?
That was unique. That was unique, and I wouldn't say controversial, but it was unique. And we have best practices guides that we put out, so that's not very unusual. but to lead with a best practices guide, I think was. And as I said before, like I'm late to the privacy game. I did privacy because it was obviously we had to do it, right? It was like not do it, and that was no good design would have ignored that. And so I wrote the privacy primer for a couple of reasons. One was a self-education. And so Diana's a lawyer. She works for Marshall, and she's brilliant. And so as a way for me to like understand my craft better, I wrote it so I could really self-teach myself. Like, I really know what this stuff is. And Diana and I, we put that together. And I think a lot of people have that thing. Like, if you're not a privacy expert, you don't know about pseudo-anonymization. You don't know about, rights and what's this and what's that. And there's a lot to know, especially if you're not a lawyer, right? And so this doesn't take the place of your lawyer, but at least makes you somewhat educated on what you're building, which is really important. So that was a new, because there's a taboo. Okay, there's a taboo that's being busted in half here, which I think is important to say. So one of the most important things is the IETF has some rules and some guidelines, and they're wonderful. I just love my association with them. And one of them is mass surveillance is an attack, and that came out of a period where we had a lot of pressure by governments to put backdoors and protocols, and we resisted that because we believe that mass surveillance is in and of itself an attack, and we haven't changed our mind. And one of the things that is dangerous about recording is, again, it that flows into this whole idea of mass attack. If you're recording everything, you can see everything, and that's not good either, right?
Right.
What's happened is we have stepped into this world where we are being observed night and day. It's not as if this is going to ever go backwards. The utility of transcribers is just too good. They just being able to the information in a conversation is too important to let go away. I mean, it deserves it. And so I think the ethical response to that is, here is an ethical software network framework that you can use to handle conversations responsibly. And the primer was there to make sure that we all understood what was happening and what privacy means and why it's important. And so that's why I had to come first, and that was a little unique. And that's why I came to it late. I just did privacy because I thought it was important to do, not because I'm a privacy advocate. I like privacy, I guess. I mean, I think about it so much. But when I got there, I'm like, oh my God, this is actually really important. And so over time, I met these really great privacy people, and I've connected into Doc Searle's community, and the My Term stuff that's coming in through IEEE and JLink, and
just curious, by the way, to your privacy point, I do remember, without naming names, a CTO who joined us in Dublin at one of our first meetups, certainly the first meetup in Dublin about vCons. And he was very cheery when he came into the meeting, and when he left, he was a little grumpy. And when I asked him why he was grumpy, he said, because for all the times he's met with the regulators in the EU, and they had all these obligations for call centers, he said that it was not technically possible to comply. And then after sitting in about the vCon session, he left grumpy because he said, I no longer can say it's not technically possible to comply.
Yeah.
And are there any liaisons, by the way, from the IETF on behalf of vCons to ETSI or to ITU or to IEEE?
No, but I think there will be after the RFC is published. A little early. That's one of the things that happens.
Can I nominate you to be the diplomat, or do we have to separately find people to be part of the diplomatic corps?
Well, I don't. I'm me. I'm willing to hop on a plane and go anywhere. So I'm very happy to liaise.
Because we have the industry bodies, the official industry bodies with standards, and then we have industry groups.
Oh yeah. And the IETF has active liaison relationships with W3C and IEEE and ETSI and the like. We do have these large guys, and then we have people who are on both sides. Like, for instance, Ori Steele was the moving force behind DIDs, who is also now a security AD working on SCIT, and so we have people who work on both sides. So.
And we need that type of stuff, and just being able to be not misunderstood, right? Because it's sort of like when you look at how many protocol, when you go into the hackathon at IETF on the weekend before it kicks off, and you see all these tables, all these protocols. As a first timer in a long time, because the last time I was at an IETF meeting was in '98 when Henry Sinrights brought me in. I believe people were being very defensive about their protocols, like, gee, is vCon intrusive of this? Is that true? Is that going to be competing with us? But what was really nice was to see the symbiotic relationships and people building bridges and people looking for ways to tunnel and to connect and add value to each other. And I thought that was amazing.
Well, you know what though? Yeah, that is amazing, and that's a testament to the ADs, the area directors at the IETF. You know, the IETF has 8 to 12 areas: security, network. We're in the art area, which I think is kind of cool.
We're in the art. So we're art.
We're art lovers. It's applications in real time.
Art. Okay. Art. And I also think you're very scrappy too.
Oh yeah, I mean that's scrappy, awesome. So this is important. So some of the new work that's happening in the IETF that I'm really in support of, and I just want to make sure people know it's just being thought of, is there's a BOF that a birds of a feather session or a side meeting that's going to happen in Vienna around a new working group called Audit, and it's a synthesis of about 8 different IETF protocols that is used for AI agent governance across networks.
That's amazing.
And, isn't that great? And so, and just give you a couple of things. So for instance, I think the vCon people are here, so they might understand the vCon's role in this is to actually represent the agent conversation, right? So that's what we just put in. So basically think of it this way: you want to manage, your AI agent. The vCon will have your conversation with the robot in the dialogue. Yeah. And then the chain of thought, the things that the robot did, would be in the analysis.
Very nice.
So that way you can say, okay, all right, so what made what happen, right? And that's what the vCon represents. You use Skit, that's from Ori's work and Hank Burkholz's work, to keep it there forever. So the Skit guys are involved, but also the guys down at the very bottom, like Whimsy and Rats. And Whimsy stands for workload management across networks. So imagine this way: you're going to start an agent. Do you know what version of the agent you're running? And
no, right.
And what permissions does that agent have to do what they're about to do?
This, by the way, is critically important stuff. I keep on, for anyone who's in the voice AI space and doing agent deployment, building agents, and even just using these platforms to be able to hook this in. That's really important stuff. We should talk offline. We should invite some of those people to come in and talk, because when we explain the value of vCons, you look at some of these other working groups, I think it's a whole ecosystem that's going to be it's evolving in real time. By the way, I don't know if you've looked recently at how many companies are in the voice AI space, but there are new categories that are evolving almost weekly. I
think Y Combinator has 2 every class.
At least, and I'm reaching out to some of these folks in all over the world, and it's like, wow. And then the valuations that some of the early guys are getting, it's just encouraging more people to come into the fold.
Yeah,
and I'm curating an event in October, looking to be as inclusive as possible, and it's like, just covering one subject, it's like it's gotten so both horizontal and vertically deep. With so many startups, and they're not Silicon Valley startups; they're all over the world startups, and that's pretty amazing.
I love that. And our job, the vConic's job, is to be the plumbing for all that stuff. It's fine with me. I'm just you guys just keep doing that stuff.
You guys keep pushing along. Well, this is great. By the way, if you're thinking about where's the next vCon Roadshow going to be, the vCon Foundation Roadshow, we are definitely going to be putting feet on the ground in Chicago, August 10th. You heard it here first. So if you're attending ClueCon, the morning of ClueCon week on that Monday, August 10th, rumor is that Thomas and I may be in Chicago to host a conversation. Maybe we'll do a breakfast with vCons. We'll see. But it's to help teach and educate and bring people into the vCon world, because I think this is one ecosystem that it's not necessarily frothy. But if you want to know where the future of communication is going to be driven by, it's going to be driven by the intersection of AI and communication. It just is.
It just is. Yeah, no, and it absolutely is. And there's actually a physical fundamental reason for that. That the data we have to work on is distributed. The AI itself is distributed. So it has to travel across networks to match the two together. And that's a fundamental of networking and of the world. So it's one of these things where apples fall from trees. It's not something that you'll be able to really avoid. And there's nothing like Chicago in August.
Yes.
Right. You know,
I think if I had to pick a month to visit Chicago, August is a good month.
yeah, I've never been in a hotter place. Maybe Plano, but Plano's a dry heat. I mean,
It's dry, but look, I'd rather be in Chicago in August than in February. Just saying.
well, yeah, I guess so. And by the way, and ClueCon's such a great community. I mean, I really appreciate the guys who do. I mean, people who show up at ClueCon bring their keyboards, right? These are people who they can do stuff, and I really love those guys. I just
because they can take vCons, implement it, make them real, and deploy.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a whole new world. I mean, like, just think of it. We have built. I've been in communications 40 years, and we built all these things to do things to like. This is the first time we have data. First time in our field we have data to actually do stuff with, and that's so it's like a new job. We have new horizons.
I kind of love that.
Absolutely.
Well, and Thomas, thank you for being here today. I know we're a day early for the week, but it's all good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And hey, if you have any questions about what's happening in the world of vCons, drop Thomas or me a message. You could, if you want to be a future guest on This Week in vCons, just say so.
Well, I just want you to know that next Friday I'll be on the road at the city of Charleston College.
Really? What are you doing in Charleston?
I'll be at Dig South.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back at Dig South, and so maybe we can grab some of the Dig Southies for a hosting opportunity. Another guy here on the call.
I love that. Well, that'd be awesome. Well, hey, have a great time in Charleston, and until next time we meet, may your vCons keep you safe and secure.
May the vCon be with you.
May the vCon be with you. Yes. Hey, it's Jeff. It's Thomas. Thanks for joining This Week in vCons.